Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a picture I think you'll never forget. Imagine you are sitting on an airplane. You've fastened your seatbelt, the flight attendants are smiling, and the captain's voice is calm. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board. Everything feels routine. But let's say the pilot adjusts the nose of the airplane by just 1 degree. That's it. One tiny tilt so small that nobody inside would notice. The engines still roar, the drinks are still served, and the passengers continue scrolling their phones, bored. Nothing seems different. But a few hours later, the plane doesn't land in New York as expected. It lands hundreds of miles away, maybe in Washington, D.C., or worse, in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. That's the power of small changes. A 1-degree shift in direction doesn't look like much at the beginning, but over time, it completely changes the destination. Now hold on to that image because it explains life better than most textbooks. Your habits, your choices, your tiny daily decisions, whether you drink water or soda, whether you read 10 pages or scroll TikTok, whether you save $1 or waste it, are like that 1-degree tilt. They don't seem important today, but stretched over years, they decide whether you land in success or regret. And this is where the Japanese taught the world something extraordinary. They call it Kaizen. After World War II, Japan was in ruins. Cities destroyed, industries broken, hope shattered. They didn't have money, they didn't have resources, they didn't even have confidence. But they had an idea. Kaizen means continuous improvement, not massive leaps, not miracles, just tiny daily progress. Workers in factories were told, improve your process by even 1%. Managers were told, make your system just a little better. Students were told, learn a little more each day. It looked boring, nobody clapped. Nobody saw instant results. But years later, that boring, invisible philosophy turned Japan into one of the most advanced economies in the world. They didn't rebuild with explosions, they rebuilt with whispers. That is the Kaizen rule. That is the 1% rule. Now, ladies and gentlemen, here's the tragedy. Most people in the world today have no patience for Kaizen. They want fireworks. They want a six-pack in 7 days. They want to be millionaires in a month. They want to meditate once and feel enlightened. And when it doesn't happen, they quit. That's why New Year's resolutions die before February. That's why gyms are full in January and empty by March. People don't fail because their goals are wrong. They fail because they underestimate the power of small, consistent action. Let's make this funny for a moment. If you eat 1 pizza today, will you wake up fat tomorrow? Number. If you skip brushing your teeth tonight, will they fall out in the morning? Number. If you go jogging once, will you look like an Olympic athlete next week? Of course not. Life doesn't punish or reward instantly, that's why it's tricky. Success and failure are both sneaky. They creep up slowly, silently, and only reveal themselves after years of small decisions stacking up. Think of Warren Buffett. Today, people see a billionaire. They see private jets, headlines, influence. But when Buffett started, he was just a teenager investing tiny amounts of money. Nothing dramatic, nothing that would make the news. He calls it the snowball effect. Roll a small snowball down a hill, and at first it looks silly, but keep rolling it, and it gathers more snow. Grows bigger, faster, unstoppable. His fortune didn't come from one miracle investment. It came from decades of 1% improvements compounding. Or look at sports. Cristiano Ronaldo is one of the greatest footballers alive, but when practice ends, most players go home. Ronaldo stays, he trains longer. He does the extra drills, the extra shots, the extra fitness. That 1 extra hour daily is his 1%. Year after year, it compounded into greatness. Talent gave him a start. Discipline gave him a legacy. But let's not only talk about positive 1%. The negative side is just as powerful and much scarier. Smoke 1 cigarette today, nothing happens. Smoke 1 every day for 10 years and suddenly you're not holding a cigarette. You're holding hospital bills. Skip 1 workout today, fine. Skip it every day and suddenly you're 30 pounds heavier. Fail to tell your partner, I love you one day, no problem. Stop saying it every day, and one day you realize your relationship has turned cold. Negative 1% choices quietly destroy destinies. And here's where it gets funny. You've seen this in your own life. Tell yourself, I'll watch just 1 Netflix episode. 3 hours later, you've finished half the season. That's negative 1% in action. Tell yourself, I'll check my phone for just 1 minute. Suddenly it's midnight and you're still scrolling cat videos. Meanwhile, the people who said, I'll just read 10 pages. I'll just write 1 paragraph. I'll just save $1, are miles ahead. So, ladies and gentlemen, the question is not whether the 1% rule works. It always works. The question is, which direction are you tilting your airplane? Toward discipline, growth, kaizen, or toward excuses, laziness, and regret? Because at the end of the day, success is not about one massive leap. It's about one tiny step repeated daily. Failure is also not about one big mistake. It's about small errors ignored daily. Think of the stonecutter. He strikes the rock again and again. At the 99th blow, nothing happens. At the 100th blow, the rock splits in half. People think it was the 100th strike, but it was the 99 before that which made the difference. That's the 1% rule. You are the pilot of your airplane. You can't see the final destination yet, but your habits are deciding it right now. 1 degree today, invisible tomorrow, unstoppable in 10 years. So let me ask you, are you awake at the controls, or are you hoping that luck will fly the plane for you? Because luck, my friends, is not a pilot. Habits are. Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. How many of you have made a New Year's resolution? Now, how many of you actually kept it until December? Be honest, for most people, their resolution dies before their Christmas decorations are packed away. Why does this happen? It's not because people are lazy. It's not because they don't want success. It's because most of us have been trained to chase big, dramatic goals. We love saying, this year I'll lose 20 kilograms. This year I'll make $1 million. This year I'll read 100 books. It sounds exciting, but it's a trap. Big goals create big pressure, and big pressure creates quick failure. Think of gyms in January. You can't even find a treadmill. By March, empty. Why? Because people thought motivation would carry them. Motivation is like a sugar rush, strong for 5 minutes, gone by lunchtime. But habits are like rice or bread. They keep you alive every single day. Motivation is for fireworks. Habits are for fire. Let me tell you a story. When Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, people said he failed 1,000 times. He laughed and said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I found 1,000 ways that didn't work. Do you think Edison woke up one morning and said, I will invent the light bulb by Friday? Number. He just showed up every day, testing, failing, improving tiny steps. The light bulb wasn't a sudden miracle. It was the 1% rule in action. The problem with big goals is they overwhelm us. Imagine telling a child, read 100 books this year. They'll cry. But if you say, read 5 pages tonight before bed, they'll do it. And if they repeat it, guess what? By the end of the year, 100 books are finished. Jeff Bezos started Amazon in a garage. Do you think he said, I will build $1 trillion company this year? Of course not. His first goal, sell 1 book, then 2, then 10. He wasn't chasing the mountain. He was picking up small stones every day. But here's the funny part. People hate small steps because they look too boring. Let me prove it. If I tell you, do 1 push-up today, you'll laugh. 1 push-up? That's nothing. But if you do 1 today, 2 tomorrow, 3 the next day, in 1 year, you'll be doing 365 push-ups a day. That's how boring creates greatness. The human brain is weird. It loves drama. That's why people binge watch Netflix until 3 a.m., but complain about reading 10 pages. That's why people dream about running marathons but don't walk for 10 minutes. That's why people promise to save $10,000 but won't start with one. The truth is this: big goals fail because they ask too much too soon. Small habits win because they ask almost nothing. But they grow quietly, invisibly, and then suddenly they're unstoppable. Let me give you a negative example too. Nobody wakes up one day and says, today I'll ruin my health, my career, and my relationships. Number. It's small habits. Checking Instagram instead of working, eating junk food instead of cooking, avoiding that 1 phone call. Slowly, you build the habit of failure. Success and failure both grow like interest in the bank. If you put $1 in today, it looks silly. But if you keep putting in $1 every day with compound interest, it grows into something shocking. Same with your habits. Every choice is a deposit in your future. The question is, are you depositing into the bank of success or the bank of regret? Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you the secret. Don't chase the mountain, pick up the stone. Don't say, I will change my life tomorrow. Say, I will improve my life by 1% today. That's how nations rebuild. That's how businesses grow. That's how lives transform. So next time you feel overwhelmed by your big dream, don't quit. Just break it down. If you want to write a book, start with 1 sentence. If you want to lose weight, start with 1 walk. If you want to build wealth, save 1 coin. The magic is not in doing it once. The magic is in doing it every single day until it compounds. The mountain looks impossible, but the stone in front of you, that's easy. And if you keep picking up stones, one day you'll look back and realize you've moved the mountain. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you the most painful truth about the 1% rule. It works, but it's not free. The price you must pay is called discipline. And discipline, my friends, is a very boring word. Nobody claps when they hear it. Nobody gets excited when they hear it. Motivation, everyone loves that. Inspiration, people cheer. But discipline, it sounds like broccoli. Yet discipline is the secret ingredient that turns the 1% rule into magic. Let me make this funny. Imagine two people decide to get fit. Person A wakes up on January 1st, full of motivation. They buy expensive gym clothes, download 10 fitness apps, and post on Instagram. New year, new me. Person B, they don't make a big announcement. They just say, I'll do 20 push-ups every morning. By February, person A is gone. Motivation expired. But person B, they're still doing push-ups. By March, person A is eating pizza on the couch. Person B is stronger. By December, person A is making the same resolution again. Person B doesn't need to. They have a habit. Who won? Not the one with the big goal. The one with boring, quiet, disciplined 1%. That's how life works. Discipline is what makes the 1% stick. Without discipline, your small improvement becomes a small excuse. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm too tired today. It doesn't matter if I skip just once, but here's the danger. Skipping once is never just once. It's the beginning of a new negative habit. Now let me give you an image. Imagine planting bamboo. Do you know how bamboo grows? For the first 5 years, you see nothing. You water it, you care for it, you protect the soil, but above the ground, nothing appears. People laugh at you, they say, "Why are you wasting time?" But what's happening underground is powerful. Roots are spreading, foundations are being built. Then in year 5, the bamboo shoots up, sometimes 90 feet in just 6 weeks. That's discipline. That's the 1% rule. You don't see the reward in the beginning, you see frustration. But if you keep watering, keep showing up, one day growth is unstoppable. Let me give you another real-life example. Do you know how Novak Djokovic trains? When he wins a tournament, people celebrate the trophy. But what they don't see is that after the cameras are gone, he goes back to practice the same serve, the same shot, over and over again. He says, I win in practice. The trophy is just a side effect that's discipline. The boring 1% that nobody watches. And it's not just sports. Writers like Stephen King write every single day, even on birthdays, even on holidays. He said, amateurs wait for inspiration. Professionals just get to work. That's discipline. You don't wait for the mood to come. You train the muscle of consistency. But let's make it relatable. Discipline is not about punishing yourself. It's about choosing which pain you want to live with. The pain of discipline weighs grams, the pain of regret weighs tons. Do you want the pain of waking up 1 hour earlier to read, or the pain of realizing 10 years later that you wasted your morning scrolling? Do you want the pain of saying no to fries today, or the pain of seeing your health collapse at 50? Discipline is simply trading short-term comfort for long-term freedom. And here's the funniest thing. People think discipline makes life harder. It actually makes life easier. Without discipline, every decision is a war. Should I go to the gym or not? Should I work or watch Netflix? Should I cook or order fast food? But with discipline, there's no debate. You just do it. No energy wasted, no drama. Discipline is freedom. Now, let's talk about sacrifice, because discipline and sacrifice are cousins. Discipline means doing what you said you'd do. Sacrifice means giving up what you love now for what you'll love more later. Think about Elon Musk sleeping in his factory while building Tesla. Think about athletes who skip parties for practice. Think about students who sacrifice sleep to study. Everyone sees the results later, but nobody remembers the sacrifices earlier. Success demands a down payment of sacrifice before it delivers the gift. But here's the danger. Most people quit too early. There is a valley I call the valley of disappointment. When you start the 1% rule, the first weeks feel useless. You eat salad, but the mirror looks the same. You save money, but the account balance looks the same. You read 10 pages, but your brain feels the same. And that's when people say it doesn't work. They quit, not realizing that the roots are still growing underground. Success is delayed. Failure is also delayed. That's why most people misjudge both. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a man digging for gold. He digs for months, sweat pouring, hands bleeding. Then he gets tired and quits. The next day, another man digs in the same spot and finds gold just 3 feet away. Most people quit at 3 feet from gold because they lack discipline and sacrifice. So, the question becomes, how do you survive the valley of disappointment? The answer is simple. Stop focusing on the results. Start focusing on the process. Don't obsess over whether you lost 10 pounds this month. Celebrate the fact that you went to the gym 20 times. Don't obsess over whether your YouTube channel has 1 million subscribers. Celebrate the fact that you uploaded every week. Because when you take care of the process, the results will eventually take care of themselves. Discipline is boring in the short term, but magical in the long term. Sacrifice hurts today, but rewards tomorrow. The 1% rule is powerful, but only for those who have the patience to let compounding do its work. And I will close this part with a simple truth. Everybody wants freedom, but only the disciplined will taste it. Everybody wants success, but only those willing to sacrifice will earn it. And everybody wants to be unstoppable, but only those who master the boring 1% daily habits will actually become unstoppable. So ask yourself today, what are you willing to sacrifice? What daily discipline will you choose? Because your answer to that question will decide whether your airplane is heading toward greatness or regret. Ladies and gentlemen, let me close with this. Life doesn't change with one giant leap. It changes with small steps repeated every single day. Tilt an airplane by 1 degree, and the destination changes completely. Your life works the same way. One habit, one decision, 1% better each day. That's enough to change everything. Japan rebuilt itself with Kaizen, 1% improvements. If a nation can rise with steady steps, so can you. Success is invisible at first, but years later those tiny actions compound into something unstoppable. So don't climb the whole mountain at once. Just take 1 step today. Do it again tomorrow and again the day after. Soon you'll look back and realize the 1% rule didn't just make you better, it made you unstoppable. And when people ask you, what's your secret? You'll smile and say, there was no secret, just 1% better every day. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like and subscribe, my friends.